there's consensus. Well, I mean, there's a lot of people that don't think the Earth is older than several thousand years. So, but there's consensus in general that about 500,000 years ago, we have control over fire. There's some interpretations of archaeological evidence, direct archaeological evidence for control of fire, or at least fire, at about 1,000,000 years. Me and several other anthropologists, archaeologists suggest it's much older than that, at around 2,000,000 years. And I truly believe that for a couple of reasons. There is not direct evidence for 2,000,000 years, but here's a couple of things that I think are important for us to consider. To get to, imagine what it takes to get to the point where you can take fire, you can start it at will, control the temperature, control the flame, put it out at will. Most animals on this planet are deathly afraid of fire. They may run the other way. There's a great book written by, I'll remember in a minute. There's a great book that suggests, and this is where I started thinking about it the first time, that not only does control of fire start at about 2,000,000 years, but to get to the point where we're controlling fire, then we have had to start to form that relationship with fire millions of years earlier, to start to understand that, hey, we can be near it. Hey, there's a reason we might, there's warmth, there's light. The insects that are drawn by the fire are insects that we eat anyhow, and here we can go there and collect them. When the fire's done, there's cooked animals left behind that we can go ahead and eat. And, when we see it burning through the woods, and then all of a sudden it runs out of trees and the fire goes out. Maybe we can fuel this fire by putting wood on it and continue to have it grow and continue to maintain it. And most importantly, but the largest jump to me, other than that initial jump where we're not running from it, we're going towards it, is starting a fire from scratch. I mean, just starting it from scratch, like with nothing else, creating an ember, to get to that point, it must have been a very, very long journey. And I'll say two quick things, and I know we're running out of time, but we'll have to do this again. But two quick things that I think are important as far as fire is concerned and our image of it in the past. Number one, one of the reasons that I'm convinced that 2,000,000 years is the time that it starts is that we use fire for many different purposes. We don't think about it today because we can turn on switches and heat our homes and turn on lights and all this, but fire was used for warmth, it was used for light, it was used to process materials, it was used for detoxification, it was used for cooking. And right about 1.8 million years ago, so we're around 2,000,000 years ago, our ancestors for the first time ever started going into northern latitudes. They started moving up, into Asia, up into Europe. And it's at the same time period that we start the last ice age. So it's the most ironic thing at all that we have ancestors moving north at the same time that we have the ice age starting. And the only way that they could do that was if they could control their microclimate. Not only do they have fire that allows them to do all sorts of other things, but allows them to stay warm enough that they're literally not dying. The second thing I'd like to just bring up real quick is this point is, when I started to learn how to make fire by friction and do all these other sorts of primitive skills, I had this image in my head that anytime our ancestors needed fire, they took out two sticks and rubbed them together and made a fire. And that was, well, that's probably not very accurate. I have a really good friend. His name is Seamus Caulfield. He's one of the most famous archaeologists in Ireland, and he grew up in this tiny little fishing village in the northwest coast in County Mayo, in a little village called Kildare, little fishing village. And he said he grew up and he had fire. Fire was incredibly important to him his entire life. That's where they got there. He had no electricity. They had no running water. Fire was used for heating. Fire was used for light, and fire was used for cooking. And it wasn't until he was in his 30s that he saw a fire lit for the first time. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I don't understand. He says, we just never let it go out. Like, it was so important, it never went out. Wow. And that is so vital, crucial, central to his life. He never saw a fire started because they banked the fire at night. At the next day, they pulled the thing, pulled it aside, right, got the embers going again, and just got it going. I mean, the man never saw a match lit, never saw a lighter lit. It was just the way that it was going. So when we have fire, we have fire and we maintain fire, and it's central to so many different things.